Welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to wrap up Volume 8 with Episode 5 of my Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac Scrapbooks. We're finishing out the remainder of the Wild Heart era that I've had in 2 volumes. I ended the last episode with some stuff from the US Festival, and I'm going to finish that out. Actually, quite a few of these pages were from the US Festival, but there's actually only just a couple more. This part was definitely part of a calendar that had come out. It's kind of longer than the paper in my scrapbook, as you can see. I'm trying to remember what month she was. I don't remember what the calendar was. It seems like it was from a radio station, but it was really cool to feature these 2 pictures of Stevie, both of which I think were also in a magazine. But this is just as one long big piece. I guess I could, it seems like, I didn't curve it because of the artist name on the bottom, photographer. And if I cut this end, then I cut Stevie Nicks off. I'm dumb like that. I can't do it. So I just let it stick out and be bent and ruined all the time. Some more pictures. This I've also had since it came out in a magazine forever. I love that little thing. She has that little coverlet. Reminds me kind of like of the one from Mirage. That's just like one piece that just kind of goes over, but this has always been real pretty too, I think. What would you do if she broke that out of the vaults again? I think she's still tiny enough to wear it. She probably doesn't feel the same way, but I bet you she could. These were some kind of random pictures I got from a super weird guy I had friended at a record show, and he had quite an archive. He's one of those kind of people who had just been in Hollywood, Los Angeles, and just always bought at swap meets and places going out of business and just large bundles. Actually, if you're a record photo collector like I am, when you just go on eBay and you search large lots of photos, you search for Stevie in the description, not just the title. Sometimes you'd be surprised what you can find. An ex-friend of mine in Germany had bought a large lot. I mean, this box was stacked. There had to have been 500 photos in this thing. But in that box, she paid like $100 and some odd dollars. But like in that box, there's like 3 or 4 rare, unseen press photos of Stevie. Some cool things. So it was a little expensive just for those photos. But then all the rest of the stuff she sold, flipped it, and other actors and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. But this guy had stuff like that, and these were 2 of the items that he had, 2 of the pictures. They're not super clear. But they're really cute and cool photos of Stevie from. And this one is kind of washed out to begin with. Let's see if I can get it good. Kind of the best we're going to get. Oh, how about back here? There's that damn blue again. It's so funny to me. These are original photos, so when I look at them, it's not even like that, but it just shows up on camera like that. But yeah, this one is kind of blurry too, but still a really cool photo. Something I hadn't seen otherwise. So these are original pictures that I got, prints, and I don't have the artist's name on there. I don't think they were, but I remember buying them from, I don't think from the art. Oh yeah, these are by, why didn't I write that down? These are by Arthur L. Field. It's so funny. It says 198 with like an underscore, so like he could fill out whatever year it was. But obviously 1983. But both these pictures are by this person who lives in New York. So maybe I did buy them directly from that person or somebody who had those photos. I don't even no idea who that person is, but they were really cool, clear pictures. Carrying on, this was an early page. So this is kind of hodgepodge again, kind of a Xerox. One of those postcards again, a copy of one of the fanzines, but this is from the US Festival. And then this photo that I've had, it's not a Messina, but it's something similar to that. This little tidbit here is on teaming up with Stevie Nicks for Stop Dragging My Heart Around. I've always loved those duets like Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris did on Grievous Angel, which is still one of my favorite all-time albums. I love George Jones and Tammy Wynette. Those ballads, they do kill me. And that's Stevie talking about teaming up with Tom. A Xerox from, about Fleetwood Mac or Stevie, something I got out of a book at the library, probably in high school. These are really cool. I have had some of these posters. I don't think I have them anymore, but I brought Bob Massey up in the past as a really cool artist. I don't even know which ones I have left of his posters. I've had to sell some stuff, but these were little kind of like business cards, postcards that he had, and this one he signed to me, which was kind of cool. It's especially cool because I don't think I have this poster anymore. But this fits into my scrapbook and it's signed, so that's kind of cool. I might still have this one. One that I never got, there was this one, there's these two, then there's one of Fleetwood Mac, and then there is another one. Is there only one other one that is of Stevie Nicks and Friends for the Arizona Heart benefit? And I never had that one. I don't know why. I just never got that one, but I sure do remember when this one came out. This was big news for people, and it is very Stevie-esque. It's really got it just really captures that kind of, why am I just forgetting the name? Not Gibson Girls, but Mucha, the artist, and kind of the Fillmore vibe. I love them. And this ticket I've had, it's just something I was found at a flea market or something like that way back when. But this magazine article I've had since forever. One of my original things from carrying everything around with me when I was in high school. My little scrapbook. And I definitely remember getting this. Was pretty big deal. Stevie dated Eagles Don Henley and California Governor Jerry Brown were some of her companions. I've heard that pop up here and again. Yeah, so this page, kind of again, made this one easily in 1998, 99 maybe. So right when I was starting to scrapbook. Another ticket that I had, this one seems to me like I did buy a large bulk and eBay auction of tickets somewhat recently, and I think maybe this one was in that one. But this is from Bristol, Rhode Island for Colt Park Amphitheater. So certainly not saying that these pictures are from that time. But two things that I've noticed. This is yet another one from that lady, that high school teacher I'd spoken about in a previous. This is yet another one from that. But I also noticed this one. I had that one. Now I want to go back. Bear with me. Normally I don't go back and do stuff, but let's see here. This one here. Just dawned on me that this page that I had done, this one goes with that. So right here. That's funny. This one I think might be, no, looks like these are originals. This was an 8x10. But it's kind of covered by everything else. But I love these just random ones. These, not perfect, but just, fan taken photos of Stevie in concert. Look at that. Somebody gave that to her. That's funny as hell. Can only just imagine her trying to drag that off. And she will. But yeah, it's cool with the ticket. And then this is a collection of photos. I've also had this pass for a pretty long while. This could be also from the US Festival, maybe? No, maybe, I don't know. Hard to say. But I definitely think all these pictures go together, that's for sure. Then I'm going to wrap up with this really, yet another great article from, let's see if I can figure out where this one is from, Houston. So I guess a Houston show during Wild Heart. And again, I love getting these articles with, unseen photos, photos taken at the show that get included into the paper. Funny enough, when seeing Stevie recently, I was really hoping they might do a write-up on her in the Oregonian. I don't know, just cause, and it was kind of a special show. And, but like our paper in Oregon only comes out like 3 days a week or something like that. So maybe over the weekend it might happen, but this was not only a great review, which is rare. I've mentioned before where sometimes they're just brutal and other times they're really nice, but just these photos that go with it are fantastic. And you wouldn't see these other than, if somehow they ended up on eBay, the original photos, but just adding them in the newspaper, I love situations like this. I don't know what all those marks are. I guess that's just in the, yep, that's just in the paper. All these dark marks look like smudges, but it's just part of the newspaper. But to continue, so they just kept going. So there's this picture as well. The remainder of the article, and then two really cool, these are definitely grabs. Somebody had some outtakes of this and those ones that I showed in the last photo album in volume 7, those ones that were opposite reverse polarized or whatever you say. But somebody had a lot of solo pictures of Chris and Sharon, and I love Stevie, but I would really have loved to have gotten my hands on those of the girls. And I straight up right clicked this, and I'm not proud of that. That's not something I like to do, but pictures of just one or the other is pretty rare. They're always in group shots, and you can straight up tell that this came off the computer just with that. But that's the only way to have seen it. And, obviously an outtake from the Wild Heart insert inner sleeve. But how cool is that? I would love to see more of those. I think there is some Polaroids of that, which actually I might do another video on. I just found when I was doing my magazines, there was a person who was selling a lot of Polaroids, and maybe I'll ask that if that person's consent. I mean, that would maybe be a nice thing to do because I want to mention them by name and how they had them all. And anyway, they had made up this catalog and such, and they were showing a lot of them. And I got one, and I showed that in my last volume. I got one of them, but boy howdy, was there some amazing stuff. And I'd kind of like to tell the story of that. So maybe I'll ask them and see if that's okay to do a video on that and show the catalog. But there's some more of these that are in that catalog. And they're not really clear. I mean, I'll really have to hold them up. They're small pictures of the Polaroids, but without those, you wouldn't have seen them at all. So something is something. So, but that will wrap up this volume and this episode. And I hope you enjoyed it and saw some new stuff, as I always love to hear that you do. Hopefully you enjoyed it and saw some things you haven't seen before. And we'll start up. What's going to be the next volume? I think that Wild Heart had to go into 2 albums because after that kind of goes into 84. There was some, like even the Prince thing, that was technically 84, I'm pretty sure. And then I have Lindsey Buckingham solo stuff and Christine McVie solo stuff. Now I don't have a lot, but I do, considering, and by a lot, I mean like there might be 3 or 4 pages of each person, but still. There's a lot of that stuff, and I might have some loose Wild Heart stuff that maybe didn't end up in the book. These books were actually put together, but I still have, like, behind me sometimes loose pages that didn't make it in there, and I'm looking at stuff that like goes with time space, and my infamous box is always right out of view. So then after that, we'll go right into, I guess, rock a little. So I might kind of do a little in between video. Maybe I'll do the Polaroids, or I'll do finally the review of my concert I went to recently, or I'm not too sure. It'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise for all of us what I end up doing next. So thank you again so much for joining me, and please continue coming. Again, thank you so much. I always appreciate it, and everybody have a great night. Bye.